So we can go ahead and again use a selector for hover div, and we want to say dot show. First of all, we want to show this div, or in fact first we want to set the text for this div. So by using text, we're placing text in between here, and then therefore that's going to display correctly. So the text is obviously hover text because we've already gained this unique attribute that we've given it. Then we want to go ahead and show it, and what this will do is it will just modify this display property to actually display it. So what we're doing is on mouse over, we're grabbing the hover text attribute which we gave inside the link here. Then what we go ahead to do is, let's just bring this down, is set the text inside of our hover div and then show it, and then bind or change the CSS properties of the hover div to the current mouse position. So in essence it's quite a simple idea and quite easy to produce something like this. However, we are going to have a few problems, and we're going to take a look at them just now. So now you can see that when I hover over, I have this box display. Now the first problem you notice is this is a bit jumpy, and the reason for this is, let's go ahead and refresh again. So I'm going to hover over from this side, and it works up until a point where I have to move my mouse back again, and now you can see that, you know, we just have our text we just have our cursor on this div. So it really at the moment is useless because the user's going to be fiddling around with this, and it doesn't look very nice and it doesn't work very well. So we need to make a couple of small adjustments to allow this to work properly. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a value of 10 onto the current Y position. So this will actually move the div 10 pixels in the top downwards and the left across. So now that I've made this small change by just adding 10 onto each of these properties, now when I hover over, you can see that it doesn't affect it. It doesn't. The mouse is, you know, the mouse is over this, but it's not affecting it when I pull it back. But we also have this problem as when we leave the element, the div isn't hidden. Remember, we automatically have this hidden, but we don't have an event to handle when the mouse comes off of the element to actually hide it. So we want to go ahead and actually hide this now. So what we can do is onto the end of our selector for our hover class, remember this starts here and ends with this bracket just here, we can go ahead and assign another event handler onto this, and that is mouse out. So inside mouse out we want to do exactly the same thing as we do and create a function and just bring this down. However, the only thing we need to write inside of here is to hide the hover div. So hover div, we use a selector to select the hover div, and we just say hide. So now what's going to happen is when the mouse goes over this element, we perform what we've already seen to be working, and when it comes away, we just hide the div. Now if the mouse was to go back onto onto this element, it would just repeat the process. So it's almost like a cycle. So now what's going to happen is we have our working element, however when we pull away, it disappears. So it doesn't remain on the page. So now we have the effect that we've been looking for. As we hover over, the div isn't interfering with the cursor, and when we move away, the div element disappears again. So this is all well and good, but we want to know that we can go ahead and use it on any other element. So I'm just going to go ahead and wrap this link in paragraph tags, and I'm going to come down and I'm going to create a new paragraph with an image inside of it. So this is essentially the steps that we would go through if we wanted to apply this effect to another element. Now we've got our hover class div up there. There's no need to duplicate this for any reason because it's dynamic. It will change depending on which element. So the image source is tartan.jpg. That's an image just inside of my my root directory. Notice this still obviously works. And we want to apply the same effect to this image. So we want to apply the hover class to this image, so hover, and then we also want to apply this hover text attribute that we created and explained earlier. So I'm going to say a lovely tartan image or pattern. So now that we've done this, we've just simply created an image, and the only two things we've done is applied this class to it, which is picked up here, and we've then gone and applied this hover text, which is picked up here. Remember, using this, so we're using a unique attribute for a particular element. So let's go ahead and preview this. Our link works as it would. Now when we hover over our image, we have the same effect with different text. Now let me just explain quickly the process that, again, if you're not too sure on this, the process that this goes through. So now that we've hovered over, we've shown the div, we've assigned it to the particular cursor, which will always happen because jQuery handles this event for us, and we've applied the text "Google, a powerful search engine" to the div on our page here. Now when we hover away, that particular div is hidden. Now the text will still remain assigned to that div. However, when we hover over the image, we assign the new description to that div, and then we show that div as well as repeating the process for assigning it to the coordinates our mouse is at. So we're essentially done. If, like I said at the start of the tutorial, if you wanted to go ahead and apply this to your own website, all you would have to do is go ahead and include this hovertext.js file on any page that you'd want to use it, or in a global JavaScript file that you might be using for your website. Obviously you need the use of jQuery, and all you need to place on your page is this div element here, but then again you could go ahead and probably include it on another page or something. So that was an extremely simple way of creating a hover over description using jQuery, but we've tailored it to make sure that it works properly and looks okay, and most importantly we've made it so we can use it with lots of different elements.